Assalamualaikum and welcome to KFtalks, where we aim to represent Muslim sisters from varying communities. We will delve into their struggles and aspirations in the Western world and how they serve Lady Fatima, peace be upon her, in all they do. This podcast aims to provide a safe platform for us to delve into and voice our thoughts on issues that may not usually be readily and openly discussed in our communities. My name is Kawthar Hakimy and I'm your host today. Mental health is a topic that is on the rise these days, and statistics have shown that at least 1 in 6 of us will suffer from a mental health illness at some point in our lives. These are just the reported statistics. The real numbers may be way higher than what we know. So today with us, we have Sister Sakina and Sister Zahra, who have some experience with mental health, depression, and anxiety. Sister Sakina, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Assalamu alaikum. So I'm Sister Sakina. So I would say I went through a few years of depression and anxiety, and when I was going through it, it wasn't a well-known concept that people would talk about. It was still quite taboo, and no one would really talk about it in the community or even amongst my friends. So I had no awareness of what I was feeling. So when I started university with all my friends, I was so excited I'm going to start with my new friends. And when that did happen, I suddenly I thought I would be living the dream, but then I suddenly started to feel like really tired. I was moody all the time. I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to help my mom out at home. I just wanted to be literally in my bed all day.
You felt like really drained.
Very drained. And when my friends would ask me where I had been, I didn't really know what to say.
Yeah. So you started experiencing this when you started uni. I mean, that's not a very nice time to start. I mean, it's never a nice time to start, suffering with something like this. But uni is like one of those times where it's like you're just starting this new stage in your life, and you're so excited and you're so looking forward to it, and then to be hit with something like this, it's quite it really pushes you, doesn't it?
It was really scary because you have all of this excitement, and you have a certain perception on what your life is going to be, and then I feel like in university is when you really find yourself as a person. And when you are confused on who you are because you don't even understand your feelings, it's a very dark place to be.
Yeah. Did you get help from anyone or anywhere about this?
I for a long time I didn't, because I just didn't understand what my feelings were. I found myself making excuses up not to see my friends because I started to feel panicky when I was with them, because I felt like I didn't have anything to say, because I didn't know who I was. I felt like I didn't have a personality anymore.
Wow. Yeah.
So until I realized, because I started to lose so much weight, and I thought that would make me happy, but it actually made me feel worse. So it's when I looked in the mirror and I thought, why am I not eating? What happened to my appetite? I used to love to eat.
Yeah.
And my family would be so worried about me, because they'll be like, yeah, you're losing weight, which is good, but you look so pale, you need to eat. So that's when I realized I needed to speak to someone. So I did speak to 2 people that were professionals. They were both different ones, but I felt like they didn't understand what I was going through, because they just saw me as a Muslim girl that is oppressed by someone, which alhamdulillah, I haven't been oppressed by anyone. So I half of me actually felt like, 1, they're not going to help me because they don't understand me. 2, I don't want to give this impression that Islam oppresses us when it doesn't. And going to these people who do not understand that, it's like I'm giving Islam a bad name, but at the same time they don't understand me anyway. So I just gave up on that completely.
Yeah. So the counselors that you went to, that you saw, were non-Muslims basically. So that highlights how important it is to have Muslim counselors and Muslim therapists, because then they can put it into context, and they can sort of treat you in a way that takes into consideration your faith and everything, and then it doesn't make it, it's not like a counselor coming and telling you, oh, you know, maybe if you take off your hijab, you'll feel more free, you'll feel happier, for example.
Definitely, but I wish it was actually like that in our community, and I wish like it would have been more accessible for me to like actually speak to someone, because the influential people in our communities, I did reach out to them. Like I got to a stage where I just thought, I need to speak to someone that can give me religious guidance, because I'm so vulnerable right now. I don't want to hear things that are not good for me. I knew that I had to like find a path that leads me to God but helps me at the same time. But so I did reach out to a few people. I'm not going to mention who they are, of course, but they were actually really cold. Like I thought I would expect them to say, "Oh, let's meet up," or "Let's speak on the phone," like through messages. Maybe I'm not understanding you, but they just gave me like a very short response, and I just felt so neglected.
Yeah, that's yeah, as in like you seek help at least from your community, you'd expect your community to help you a little bit, but it's disappointing to see that not a lot of people in our community are trained to be able to handle these situations.
Definitely, and I do feel like um that this is something that our community lacks. We need more female scholars. We
Yeah.
need more female scholars that are accessible and do work that be accessible to the community, like make themselves known. I'm sure there are a few female scholars in our community, but it's just I haven't come across one.
Yeah.
And the ones that I have come across, they're really hard to get hold of. Like, how do you find them? They don't really have social media profiles where you think, okay, I'm gonna go contact you.
That's so true. How did you cope with it? What coping mechanisms did you use, and did they help at all?
No, so basically for me, um, everything got really bad in uni. I didn't go out, lost weight. But then suddenly my grandma had passed away and we had to fly abroad. Um, and it was my first experience of an Islamic a burial all to begin with, but it was like an Islamic burial where you don't like they don't put the bodies in a box. Like literally the bodies get buried with the kafan, and their face gets put on the ground where it's touching sand facing the Qibla, obviously. um so it was quite graphic, and then on top of that, that was my grandma, which who was really dear to me. But Allah works in the most beautiful and mysterious ways. Like it was such an eye opener. I felt so close to my grandma. It was the most beautiful experience. I felt like she wanted me there. Um, and where she's buried, there's a shrine near there, so we got to go ziyarah every single day for like 2 months. It was such a spiritual moment, and I really felt like in a mysterious way that Allah really like held my hand, and the imams, may peace and blessings be upon them, really like gave me a big emotional hug, which really built me. And suddenly I came back and I had time to grow and really think and contemplate. So you know how Imam Ali alayhi salam says, your sickness is within you, and
Yeah.
only if you reflect you'll find a remedy. And I really really felt that with the help
SubhanAllah.
of Allah and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam.
Yeah. It's so
So
interesting.
yeah, and sorry, you know how sometimes people that are really feeling sad, feeling depressed and anxious, it's really hard to connect to God in those
Yeah.
moments. Like you can feel so low. And
Mm.
I know a lot of people get told, oh, just read Quran and you'll be fine. Like I don't believe in that, and I'm sure a majority now will know that's not the answer. But I would really recommend going on a religious trip, whether that's going for ziyarah, whether that's going for hajj or umrah, whatever it is. That I genuinely feel like helps you so much.
Yeah, I see. You're right. I mean, it's like
you wouldn't tell someone who's got a physical illness to just read Quran and it'll go away. Mental illnesses need to be treated with more seriousness. It's not just a matter of, oh, because it's quite off-putting when you go for help in the community to like a religious scholar or someone, and they just tell you read Quran. It's just like, but as in, I'm praying 5 times a day. I'm doing all these.
Yeah.
I'm doing the tasbihat. I'm doing all these mustahabbat. I'm fasting and everything, but I'm still feeling this way. Like, what's wrong with me? Is there something wrong with me? Am I doing something wrong? It really puts you off. It's so
It really
important.
it's
Yeah,
very important. And but I do have to I totally agree with you, but I do have to give some credit to the scholars, because I've attended a few like lectures that were given on mental health, and I feel like we've come a very long way.
yeah, definitely. There's a lot more being said about mental health. I mean, it's
Yeah.
being discussed a lot more. Even like in Muharram that just passed, there's been lectures about mental health.
Yeah.
A lot more scholars are opening up and talking about it and becoming more sort of approachable and open-minded about it, which is really quite a positive thing to see. But as in like, I personally as well went through depression, and I went through it like through most of my childhood and adolescent years, and it's just very strange. It's like, there's something wrong, you just don't know what it is, and you can't put your finger on it. It's just, you just feel a certain way and it just doesn't feel right. And it's like, how, I don't know how to go to my parents about this, because I don't know what exactly is wrong. You can't really put it into words. So for the longest time, I just dealt with it by myself. And obviously, like you said, it's difficult to find someone in the community who can help.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
that's
I
really,
think because it was such a taboo for so long in our communities, and you would get told on, yeah, read Quran, it actually makes you feel like, oh my God, is there actually something wrong with me
yeah,
spiritually?
yeah.
Like, is there actually something wrong? You start doubting yourself, and it's a very, very dark time.
Mm,
Although we have made progress,
yeah,
I do feel that although there's a lot of awareness being spread about mental health, I don't think there's enough talk about how the community should treat those that are going through such a dark period in their
yeah,
lifetime.
yeah,
I feel like there's not enough awareness about how we should deal with those that are going through a mental health condition or a
yeah,
very dark period of time. Um, like what I experienced a lot, and I think I still experience to this day, is that because it was so new and no one understood how I was feeling and I was really acting differently, a lot of my friends took that personally. And there's
yeah,
a lot of people that I don't speak to anymore because I they didn't understand me, and a lot of people around me took a lot of offense by it. And
yeah,
it is sad because when I look back now, it's just I sometimes see pictures and I just feel like, okay, that was my big friendship group. I could have still been friends with these girls, or they would have attended me to their wedding because I would have been part of this. And
yeah,
sometimes you do get sad on, oh, like it's cost me a lot. Like, alhamdulillah, I've gone through it. I'm so much stronger. I've gained a lot of knowledge, wisdom. I can relate to people. But I
mm,
have paid a big price for that.
yeah, yeah. That's really interesting. It is, as in, you're right. I feel like even our generation sort of doesn't really know how to deal with it. But the past few years, with this rise of people of mental health, in social media, um, like even I remember looking at a post saying from a sheikh that was saying like things not to say to a person who is going through a mental health problem, and that these points are really important, like that he shared these, because not a lot of people know, and they don't realize that sometimes your friend who is kind of neglecting you, or not contacting you as often, or doesn't want to go out with you, it's not a personal issue. Like, it's
Yeah.
probably something she's going through. Maybe you need to just check up on her and call her, let her know she's there, make sure that you're there for her. And it's like,
even if you message someone once and they don't reply, check up on them again in a week. You never know. Like, you never know what that person is going through, especially with the lives that we live in these days. It's very hectic. There's a lot going on in our lives. I mean, it's not surprising, to be honest, that so many of us are dealing with these mental health issues.
I totally agree with you, and I feel like friends should never really stop inviting other friends to like your majlises, your gatherings, because I've experienced where people stop inviting me to their majlises, and I just think, but I'm still a follower of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Like, you should still have that love for me to invite me and think about me.
Yeah, that's so true. So you mentioned the hadith by Imam Ali alayhi salam. That's an amazing hadith, by the way. Like, that is one of those ahadith that really, like, when you're going through something so difficult, it really helps, because it's like, you know, like, especially with mental health, the sickness is within you and the remedy is also within you.
Yeah.
So all you need to do is just sit back, take a step back, and reflect a little bit and contemplate a little bit. Take some time out for yourself, perhaps. It's so important to do self-care. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Don't get so caught up in taking care of everyone else when you've forgotten to take care of yourself first. Like, are there any like other Quranic ayahs or ahadith or stories of anyone that have helped you through your dark periods?
Yeah, there's two that are very dear to my heart, and I think they'll always be for the rest of my life. One is when Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam said, "I saw nothing but beauty in the court of Yazid." And two is when it has mentioned in the Quran where God says, with hardship there's ease. So a lot of people mistake that after the hardship is gone is where you actually feel the ease. But no, while you're actually going through it, if you take that time to yourself, and like you said, where you just mentioned self-care is very important. It's so important. You need to start spending time with yourself. You need to start getting to know yourself, finding what you like and don't like, and don't go near to the things you don't like. And even if that means that you have to stop speaking to certain people that you like but they're not good for you, then do that. Put yourself first, like how you would put any, like, make yourself literally your best friend and treat yourself. It's so important. Spend money on yourself, like the money that you work for, spend it on yourself. Like, do the things that you enjoy. And while you're doing that with hardship and you see goodness in your hardship, you find coping mechanisms, and they will stay with you for life. They will literally help you with for life, and it's such an eye opener. Like, once you actually like look back, or even while you're going through it, just look at your whole entire life, you really start appreciating things. And when you start appreciating things, it makes you happy. And what also really helped me is I got myself a journal, and I write in there every single night that I've done all my prayers, a good thing that I did, what I want to do tomorrow. It's just a gratitude journal, and saying good things and writing them down in the most mysterious way actually makes you really happy and makes you feel good about yourself.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Like remembering things that you're grateful for, it definitely, it's been shown, like, by scientific studies, that it rewires your brain as well. So that's really important. But yeah, how can we raise awareness in the community about this? Like, what are the steps? What kind of practical steps can we do? And what does the community need to know about this issue? And what can they do moving forward? Like, after this, what can we do?
In my opinion, what you guys are doing right now is very great. It's so nice that we're having this discussion right now. The other thing that I would suggest is we need more female scholars, and we need more female therapists to actually come and make themselves known on social media, so there's somewhere that someone can go to. And the third thing that I would say is more girl events. I went to a women's only event not too long ago about sisters that had reverted and how much we actually have neglected them. And they've suffered from mental health. So I think someone shared their story and we all like felt so good after, because we all just connected to one another and everyone opened up, which was so lovely. So events like that.
Yeah, that's so important. You know, you mentioned the word connect. Yeah, and I think the time we're living in right now, we're all so disconnected with each other. We text each other, we barely call each other, and it's just that there's such a lack of connection. We don't really talk about the important things. We don't talk about our feelings. We don't discuss these things with each other. We usually, when we meet up, we're talking about what show we're watching on Netflix, or I don't know, like just trivial things that don't really matter. But we don't really ask each other about how we're feeling and how we're doing in a genuine way. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sakina.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, no problem. Next, we have Sister Zahra, who is a life coach. Sister Zahra, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Assalamu alaikum, Kawthar. Yes, sure. So basically, how I actually got into life coaching is because I have been a big fan of personal development for like the past 10 years. And my journey sort of started when I started to read books, because I used to I guess, struggle with, coming out of my comfort zone and meeting new people. It's something that I used to have like a lot of anxiety with. So I started to read self-help books more. And it was actually a cousin of mine who actually recommended me to actually start reading books like this. So Alhamdulillah, like that helped me a lot. When it came to like, moving to a different city, meeting new people. I've attended like self-development talks on, leadership, how to communicate with other people, how to influence. And yeah, it's something that I really, really enjoy, like discussing with others. When it comes to mental health, one of the main points that I'm just gonna say is that, like when you're feeling stressed, you feel upset, you feel frustrated, you feel angry, you need to deal with those feelings. You can't trap and bottle these things up, right?
Yeah,
so if you're somebody who wants to cry, I'd say cry. It's fine. It does not make you weak if you get upset. It does not mean that, if you're crying, that means you don't have faith in Allah. It doesn't mean that you're negative. You need to actually deal with these feelings, so you have to like get them out. Yeah, if you want to sit there, you want to cry, that's fine. Just do it, because what happens is there's a sense of relief when you actually deal with it. You feel
it's
so much
cathartic when you cry. It lets out these feelings that you're holding in. It lets them out, and it sort of takes them off your shoulders a little bit.
Yeah, so you end up feeling just a little bit lighter than what you were before, right? So yeah, like the first thing is just to like just face your emotions, just express them. It's okay. The other thing that I would just say is that like just assess a situation. Like for example, so like, okay, that girl was crying, like you can just say, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay to be upset, it's fine. You don't have to talk to her about it. You just sit with her. You don't have to say anything. It's like I said to you before, it's not what you say, you have to look at your actions. Just keep her company, right? So little things like this. But yeah, sometimes like we have to just think about, we don't want to sound insensitive to other people, because like from another a person's perspective could be that like I want to feel upset, but this person is just telling me to be strong all the time, and sometimes it gets a bit annoying. This is like what we can work on, right?
There's this what do you think of this culture of toxic positivity? Because I feel like recently, or maybe like a few years ago, it was all about having good vibes and positive energy, and no negativity around here, you know. So it was sort of like forcing people to just experience good emotions, and I say good emotions with quotation marks. But I mean, all emotions are there for a reason. Like, we feel anger for a reason, we feel sad for a reason, we feel happy for a reason. It's not healthy to be happy all the time.
Yes, I agree with you 100% with that. Yeah, it's, should I be honest, Kawthar, I don't think there's one person who lives on this planet who is 100% happy all the time. No one is, right?
And if they were, it wouldn't be normal, would it?
No, it wouldn't. I don't know how. You'd probably need an energizer battery, like full charge, and you know what I mean. But like, look, you know, like, you're a human being, and you know, like, we've been I would say, blessed with these kind of feelings, like, by God, so we can learn how to deal with them. And you know, like, every single emotion that you feel, whether it is, you know, fear, whether it's, you know, depression, anxiety, you know, I'm not even telling you that that's a bad thing to feel. I'm not even telling you that, you know, why are you feeling like that, there's something wrong with you. But you know, sometimes
that's the thing, it's not a bad thing to feel. It's a thing that we go through. It's part of our human experience. Like, if we're not feeling these things, we're sort of missing out on half of the human experience. I mean, half of it is going to be happy, joyful, and successful and everything, but the other half is going to be hard. It's going to be a struggle. We're going to experience sadness, we're going to grieve, we're going to, you know, and these things need to be equally as important and not taboo, you know.
Yes, yeah, no, 100%.
Being happy isn't taboo. Why is being sad a taboo?
Yeah, it's because, like, you know, it's been perceived very negatively. That's the problem. You know, sometimes these are like trials from God as well. You know what I mean? Our feelings, you know, like, everything that we go through, whether it's, you know, a good thing or a positive thing, these things have been given to us by God, right? So he's actually testing us, like, how are we going to deal with this? Is that, you know, when you're feeling upset and you just want to talk to somebody, I think there should be at least one person in your life that you 100% trust, that you should be able to vent to. Yeah,
definitely.
So you know, like, just use this person and ring them, and if there's anything that you're feeling, just take it out of your system, because you know that person is there to be your friend. And just talk to that person, just get it out of your system. If you want to feel sad, you want to feel frustrated, you want to feel angry, it's okay, you can talk to that person, because you need to deal with those feelings, right? Instead of just trapping it inside. Because you know what, sometimes we tend to swallow a lot of things that happen. You know, like, there could be like 10 things that went wrong, you know, today, that made me so angry. But you know, I told myself, I'm not going to react and I'm not going to say anything. But you know what ends up happening? You end up swallowing it, right? You end up swallowing everything,
and it builds and it builds, and then it just blows
builds
up
and builds up and builds, and some bichari person who comes and just, you know, accidentally knocks into you, and that's it, she's got the brunt of it, you know. Yeah. So I'd recommend that, you know, you have a friend, if it's, you know, even a family member like your grandmother or somebody, that you think of it as like a safe hub, right? And go to your safe hub anytime you have an issue or problem. You trust this person, just talk about it honestly, and just say, you know, if you're feeling angry, say, I'm angry, you know, this happened, you know, I feel upset. Just take it out of your system, because you need that for your health, right? You don't realize, but you need that for your health.
I think one other thing we need to learn or start teaching ourselves is how to label our emotions. And like, sometimes we feel so frustrated and a bit overwhelmed with so many different emotions, and we sort of don't know how to like pick them apart and just sort of like be like, okay, this is because I was feeling angry at this point, I was feeling sad at this point, I was feeling happy at this point, and it just becomes a cocktail of emotions that we don't know how to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, my personal experience, also, like, since, I'll be honest, you know, when lockdown happened in March, like, obviously there was a fear of, you know, being in the house too much, right? I think everybody was sort of feeling like, oh, like, you know, I'm not gonna be able to go out and even see my family, my friends, nobody. But I've been actually told and advised to actually stay at home. Like, legally I can't, you know, meet up with anybody or go out anywhere unless it's like a necessity, like a supermarket. So like the thought of that was making me feel quite anxious like the first week. But you know, like the way to deal with your emotions is like I said to you before, is to accept them. Okay. You know, accept what you're feeling. And yeah, sometimes you feel a mixture of things, you know, sadness, you feel frustrated, you know, sometimes you feel confused, you know, like why am I thinking a certain way, why am I feeling a certain way, you know, like sometimes you ask yourself what's wrong with you. These are normal things to feel. When you have a lot of time on your hands, this is there's a saying, isn't it, that, you know, an idle mind is a devil's workshop, right? So something that I fear is like one of my biggest fears is actually to have too much time on my hands, because you want to use that time. Number one, you want to use it productively, you want to use it well, and you want to use it in a form of worship to God as well, right? So I think if you just firstly accept that some days I'm going to be sad, you know, some days I'm not going to feel great, some days I will be happy. The fact that you're aware of that, I think, solves half the problem, because you're accepting that, right? Rather than, you know, like feeling like, oh, what's wrong with me? Rather than that, you just say that, look, it's normal for me to accept these things, but, you know, how can I deal with it today?
You have to make the most of the situation that you've been given. It's like, it's easy to sort of get all wrapped up in feeling sorry for ourselves and, oh no, it's lockdown, and oh my god, we're all trapped in our own houses. But at the end of the day, we really need to make the most of what we have.
100%.
Zahra, what about any like Quranic ayahs or hadith or any stories that you can share that have helped you or that you think might help others?
So I'm gonna share just like a couple of examples of, you know, like our prophet Muhammad, for example. You know, there's a common story of how, you know, this lady used to just throw garbage at him all the time. Right? You hear a lot. So when it comes to, you know, like mental health, for example, I think like sometimes when we look at our prophet, obviously we have very high respect for them, right? But I think we tend to forget that, look, this person was a human being too, you know, like sometimes like our prophet used to feel so lonely, but we tend to forget these things, you know, like we tend to think that, you know, like the most like pious, you know, leaders like in Islam, you know, we forget to think that, you know, they were human beings with emotions, they felt these things too, right? So you know, like try and look at it from that perspective, that, like, you know, like sometimes when I feel sad, I feel down, I feel upset, it's okay to feel these things, because look, our you know, our followers, you know, our imams, our prophets went through these things too. But the difference is, you know, like how to deal with it, you know, how to deal with it constructively in a positive way, right? How to deal with it in a way where it's not going to upset or harm another person, right? That, look, if you don't deal with your issues, you don't talk about it. I'm just telling you to talk about it. I'm telling you to vent. That's what you need end of the day. Just like one person to just be calm and just listen to you. That's it, right? It's one person, but it helps a great deal. I can't stress it enough. It helps a lot.
You know, also another thing we could do, if we don't have anyone in our lives that we really trust that much or we're that close to, we really need to start considering like Allah as our friends, because at the end of the day, there's no one on this earth that loves us as much as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there's no one on this earth that can keep our secrets like him. And there's honestly, like, you can just sit and just talk and talk and talk and talk and vent, and you know that like Allah is listening to you, and he knows what's best for you, and inshallah he'll answer your prayers and he'll give you strength. So
that's a good point you mentioned. You know, sometimes when I pray namaz, and I've told a couple of people this, you know, if I'm, you know, really struggling about something, and, you know, I'll just sit there on the musalla and just like reflect maybe for 10 minutes. And, you know, I'm literally just sitting there. I'm not even praying a specific dua. this is just me sitting there. And I said, like sometimes worship is, communicating with your God. But like it doesn't literally have to be a specific dua to pray. I'm not saying don't pray duas. I said, of course, like there's a lots of duas for that, but this is just another coping mechanism that I find works for me.
And also, I think it's really important that that people know that it's okay to ask for help. So, and like most of us have our GPs and everything. It's really important if you're feeling like you've got some depression, if you feel like you've changed, if you feel like a few weeks have passed and you've been in this really low mood, it's important for you to go and seek help, go talk to your GP, and make sure you get the support that you need. And inshallah, anyone who's struggling and needs help will get the help that they need. So we've spoken a bit about mental health in this episode and discussed several points, such as how having understanding friends who check up on you often is really important for our well-being, as well as having support from local mosques and community centres. Unfortunately, it's time for this episode to come to an end. I would like to thank our dear guests, Zahra and Sakina, and also our lovely listeners for taking the time to tune in. Join us next week for part 2 with Sister Hania Tosi, who is a psychological well-being practitioner, discussing depression and anxiety in a bit more depth. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or wish to share your thoughts, please feel free to contact us through our social media page at Khuddam Fatima. Also, give us a follow so you can keep up to date with all our upcoming episodes. Thank you for listening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.